I come from a background of working within teacher education for about 10 years now. I've been working with Faculty of Education at Lakehead University here in Ontario. And I would like to acknowledge the traditional lands of the Three Fires Confederacy, where I am currently situated in Windsor, Ontario. But my true home is close to Midland, Ontario, on the sunny shores of Georgian Bay. And I'm really happy to have Stephen here as a colleague and co-creator of blog sites. I've been using WordPress both as a teaching mechanism and for my own professional journey for a number of years, and I'll share some of the blog sites that I have available. You can take a look. We'll look at a few today as well. So when asked to do a blogging workshop, I started thinking deeply about what that means and decided to create a blog site for this blogging workshop, which will be yours. The link has been shared in the chat. This is yours to use and share and borrow, take, remix, reuse in any way that you need. I use the metaphor, not sure why, but we've got extra sounds coming through. So this is the starting block. And over the next 2 workshops, we will have a number of different blocks, and we're going to build some blogs and build some blogging skills. I'm taking the words of a blogging guru, Alan Levine, to heart, and I'm going to start sharing my screen so we can work from the blog site itself. Using the words of Alan Levine, some of you will meet some of his work through this workshop, but he has a blog that talks about using Legos as a metaphor for WordPress installation. It's like having a box of Legos and dumping the box on the floor. And I admire the notion that it really is really messy looking at first, but eventually something comes out of it and you have something that you're proud to show and share. So this is Building Blocks with Blogging, and it's a series of WordPress workshops from a WordPress blog site. I've built in the land acknowledgement that is familiar to us for those of us who work with UBC, but there is also an interactive map where you can begin to understand those deep significances and histories of the places where we each live, teach, and learn. And I believe some of you have been putting in the chat the locations where you are working. When I started, the introduction to this workshop really is this notion that, and it comes from Paulo Freire, a teacher is a professional who must constantly seek to improve and develop certain qualities and virtues which are not received but must be created. And the capacity to renew ourselves every day is important. So using this metaphor, imagining it as interconnecting bricks, wooden stacking blocks that we used as children. I want to encourage you not to limit yourself to one publication or one web site or web location. I will share multiple blog sites that I use for different purposes, obviously. Each one has a purpose. But as we go into this, I'd really like to explore in this series of workshops the purpose, the mission, and goals for your blogging practice, and hinge them and base them on these priorities established by the Edith Lando Virtual Learning Center to reconfigure virtual education, to regenerate sustainable learning relations, to recognize rural and remote community needs, particularly in the need to share their voice and to share their stories, to respond in honored and honorable ways to Indigenous knowledge, and to revive intergenerational knowledge, and potentially using blogs to celebrate the intergenerational knowledge and experiences that we have. And I honestly and truly believe that these can be accomplished through the educational application of blogs and blogging, either within your own classroom, if that's why you are here, or that's your why, or for your own professional growth, if that's your purpose, your why. So Simon Sinek explored about 10 years ago, trying to find his why. And rather than watch the video that I have on this blog site, I'll leave that for you to enjoy at another time. But I wanted to explore this video because it really talks to knowing what your why is.
My why.
My why.
My why is to help others ground and connect.
To connect deeply with people. To be fully with you.
To reveal possibility.
So that we can all do our life's work.
So that we may better celebrate our existence together. So that we can be solid together.
So that we dare to achieve more.
Ultimately, hopefully, something in there caught your attention and resonated, and will help you establish your why. So I've set out and established some goals for these workshops, but ultimately I like this to be a co-creation activity. And if you have something that you can put into the chat to let me know what prompted you to come to this workshop, to explore blogging for your professional practice, for your work with students. So, you know, despite all of the elements that we can look at here that I've established and woven into the pages in this website, I'd like to know what's your why? And as I started this, I reached out to educators. I'm part of a network of educators through Twitter, and I asked them why they blog as a teacher, what brought them to blogging, or why they keep blogging. And these are critical friends that responded to my question. Yvonne works with the Faculty of Education at UBC. Thank you, Simone. Yes, deeper understanding and providing tips and tricks for assisting with blogging. So Yvonne says that she started with a class blog and had primary and intermediate students blogging for a specific audience, but now she blogs mostly in terms of digital tech. And Yvonne is the master keeper of the SCARF Digital Sandbox, which we will see in a number of different places through this website. Aviva is an educator here in Ontario, and she has blogged for some time. You can see she's been blogging since 2010. She did a blog post, Why Do I Blog? And she did another one in September of 2020, just as she was teaching at the onset of the pandemic, knowing that things in Ontario were quite difficult through the last months of the school year in 2020. This would be the onset of the new school year at the early onset of the pandemic. Lori is an educator in Ottawa, and she has recently just blogged and connected me to this blog site again. And she writes very reflectively. She works with, she's a special educator in the Ottawa Carleton District School Board. And she writes very reflectively about her life, her teaching, her connections to family, friends, and key issues. Jennifer Cassatod, again, an Ontario educator, and we'll meet her in a couple of different spots in this blog site. But she started primarily just sharing tech tools and using it as a curation site, and slowly then transformed it to talk about growth, learning, and reflections. Sherry is a very thought-provoking blogger. She is an elementary phys ed teacher in Europe. I believe either Switzerland or Austria. I can't remember exactly where, but she blogs about authors and poets and educators, and she's very critical, very reflective, and very creative in what she posts on her blog. Verena Roberts is an educator in higher education, and she mostly uses her blog site as either a portfolio for projects or as examples for her instructional design work. For my own reasons for blogging, I think back to a post I wrote on my blog site titled Awaken the Dragon 2015, and I was just beginning a course with a group of teacher candidates in the Faculty of Education. And I wrote this as a renewed commitment to blogging. But what really hooked me was a blog post that I did that garnered a fair amount of feedback from respected and critical bloggers. One of them was Alan Levine, who wrote a blog post as a comment on my blog post, which really got me thinking about why I blog. And I think it was that having that conversation with critical friends for me was really important. So I've opened up an Etherpad for those of you who haven't mentioned anything in the chat window. Would invite you to use this Etherpad. Click on the link that's here, and it should open to, again, this is an open educational tool available to just jot in and just click in and type in my why is for conversation and critical dialogue. So you can add yours and it will be anonymous. No one is going to track you. And you can add to the conversation here. Natasha. Yes, would like to try blogging as a new way to share what's happening in your classroom. And we'll see a couple of really good examples of that. Aviva Dunzinger's is one that I share with my own teacher candidates because she blogs about things that are happening in the classroom. And as a reflective tool, I would highly recommend you take a peek at Lori's because she speaks from the heart.
Apologies, Helen. It's saying there's no permission to access the site.
Okay, so let me double check and see to make sure that get shareable link. Yes, you should be able to edit. Okay, let me copy that link just to make sure, and then I'll put it in the chat here. It should be the same link. If not, then I've got some permission settings that I haven't gotten right. So ultimately, what I've collected here on the next part of the page is beginnings or maintaining a blog for educational purposes can include any number of these. The Kids Guide to Canada is a blog site created by some educators here in Ontario that were really looking at connecting children across the country with each other. So it's kids connecting with kids to talk about their communities. Communicating information to parents and wider communities. This Cobble Hill Elementary School in BC did this during the pandemic. And this particular teacher, Sarah Adams, did planning and communicating of her teaching lessons when she was teaching remotely. And if you look at that site, we'll take a quick look at that site. It actually shows how the parents commented. So here's her music assignment, science biodiversity, the video that the students would watch, questions to ask. And if we keep scrolling, there are a number of videos that she's provided and comments that parents can make. So there are 8 thoughts on this learning plan, and it could have been a parent just asking about, would you mind sending something up or setting something up for one of the students? So it's a great way to keep connected to your parents' community, to share class information and practices while using blog features. This educator, again in BC, uses the blog feature as a weekly or monthly newsletter. So she's using this is the blogging page, and it actually has the newsletter as a blog feature because it's got a date attached to it. Okay. So then the parents can go back and see the newsletters from previous editions. You can showcase student learning. It can be a curated repository of student activities. It doesn't need to be the students doing the blogging. It could be you curating the information. Or again, if you have older students, then the students can become the curators and do it through guest access to a class blog site. And you can share your passions and your backgrounds with your parents, school community members, as seen in a couple of these. Heather Thiesmeyer is an Ontario high school math teacher, and she shares her passion for all things mathematics. She lives on Manitoulin Island and builds connections to math organizations that further her professional practice for her students. And one of my favorite bloggers is Doug Peterson. Again, he's a retired Ontario educator who curates and collects and talks about Ontario bloggers. So he calls it This Week in Ontario EduBlogs. And he does a weekly podcast where he showcases some of the blogs that have caught his attention. So he's amplifying the voice of Ontario educators by doing this. So I encourage you to think about your why as you begin, continue, or renew your commitment to blogging as part of your educational practice. Really consider your why. And as you do that, think about how this can connect to your philosophy of teaching, as Yvonne has done in this blog post on her philosophy, which she created, again, as a presentation. So it's a slide presentation. She calls it an Ignite slideshow, and it's embedded in the blog site that she's created. So you can see a little bit about her why on this site. So I'm going to take a pause before I go to the next page and see if there are any questions or any comments, any wonderings about the why for blogging. Let's go back to the Etherpad. Oh, thank you for contributing. Effectively integrating into your course and classrooms. And I can show you a couple of course websites that I've created. Every course that I've taught in the Faculty of Education at Lakehead is on a WordPress, either a WordPress site. I dipped into Weebly, dipped into Wix, into WBCBlogs, and then came back to WordPress as my predominant use for courses. And share opportunities with learners and celebrate the great work of educators around me. That is an excellent reason for blogging. And to be cautious and cognizant of, and we'll come to that a little bit later in today's presentation around the privacy and permissions that you might want to consider as you do that. Okay. So as you begin your blog, or if you've got a blog site already, in most cases there is a page that shares all about me. It's whether it's about me or some type of information about me. It usually comes with a standard phrasing that says, you can change this to a post or a page, feel free to edit, yada, yada, yada. So creating an about me page, I think, is an important starting point. And this is why I started with this question of why. So as you include this about me page, you have to think about what this page should contain or would contain, what you are willing to share or what you feel you need to share as part of your professional digital identity, or the identity of your classroom as it will be shared to the wider world on the internet. So I'd like to give you some time to explore these 5 examples. So taking a look at these examples that I've collected below, and one of them is my own, I want you to jot down 5 things. We're going to pause for about 5 minutes. We're going to take a look at these blog sites to see how these bloggers and authors have structured their About Me page. I'd like you to jot down 5 things or actions you would like to take for your own blog site. And if you scroll down on the Etherpad, this is activity number 2. And again, there are places you can jot down anything you notice about these 5 blog sites. Just the about me page. What do you notice? What do you wonder? What do they share? What don't they share? I'm going to stop sharing for a few minutes, give you a chance to go into those sites. Let's come back together. And each one of these has a personal story in some way, is sharing something that is unique about each of the individuals. So we look through, and I'll leave the 5 flames for learning for your own viewing. But Shelley Moore is an educator in the Vancouver area, and her About Me page has a very personal story. It identifies personal information, is very humorous and humanizing, shows a couple of images that again are of her. Trevor McKenzie is a BC educator who's also an author. So yes, there is an element of self-promotion in that About Me or who I am, and answers the questions. I say headings are simple and large, easy to read. Peter Skillen's been an Ontario educator for a significant number of years. So yes, he has a large repository of information and materials that he has created and curated over the course of his career. And again, Brenda Sherry is another open educator, an educator here in Ontario, and she links to organizations and activities and passions. So you really get a sense of who she is and as an educator. I think ultimately what this activity for me does is that it says that you have to create your page to suit your needs, your why, your purpose and passion, and to be able to share what you want others to know about you as an educator. So let's begin. All genuine learning requires of us a constant open approach, a willingness to engage invention and reinvention so that we might discover those places of radical transparency where knowledge can empower. A quote by Bell Hooks. So in the next section, I'll just highlight some blogging basics, basics about setting up your WordPress site, some blog design specifically for educators, touch on the 4 Ps, taking a look at pages and posts, looking at similarities and differences and why you should use one over the other, and then looking specifically at the content editing within WordPress, and they do talk about blocks and blocking. So, and then I'll offer you an opportunity to engage with blogging before we come together on Thursday. So what is a blog? The challenge is that a blog is both a noun and a verb. It is the thing that we see on the screen. It is that content that is created, but it is also the action. The verb is, I'm blogging, I'm a blogger. I'm a blogger, here's my blog. Blogging is an act of writing to the web, and to know that there are considerations that we need to make as we do that writing to the web, because it provides an opportunity to break beyond the alphanumeric symbols that we use for writing and really look at creating, capturing, expressing ideas, sequencing actions, and sharing topics of interest. And blog sites can be private, password protected, or readily available. And the default for WordPress is that it is a public document unless you dictate or deem it to be otherwise. WordPress is a web design tool. It's a web content management system. It's an industry standard. It is offered free to students, faculty, and staff at the University of British Columbia. It is part of the technology ecosystem. For British Columbian educators, some districts are now offering WordPress hosting services or a way to engage with WordPress or blogging. Some are within a system level server that, again, adhere to the requirements for educators in British Columbia for FIPA compliance, freedom of information and protection of privacy. So where can you set up a WordPress site? If you are a BC educator, your first option would be to see if your school district or system level supports blogging. And that's ultimately the best way to allow students to gain access, because then there are security and safety considerations built into the system. Richmond School District is getting started with WordPress blogging. If this is not an option for you, and you are within the UBC digital networks, you can access a blog through the UBC blog sites that's available. For those of you who are not part of either, you can try accessing through the OpenETC free range ed tech site, and that's how this blog has been created. It's part of, if you look at the URL up here, it's an opened.ca blog site. So you can access, for educators in British Columbia, the data for these blogs is stored within British Columbia. It might be the best option if you are looking at doing professional blogging, creating your own professional blog site. But I would probably suggest that it's not something you want to use with students unless you are finding specific ways to anonymize the student content that might be published on the site. So for your own professional blog site, if OpenETC isn't an option, you can get started with WordPress.com with a free site. A free web hosting site is included, but be aware that there are limitations and constraints to these blog sites. The free version may not give you everything that you might want to come to use if you're a more sophisticated or proficient blogger. And there are several resources available to get you started, including tutorials. So there are definite support mechanisms. And one of my first blog sites is still a WordPress.com site. And again, taking a look at other educational bloggers, because those who have gone before can help model and shape and inform my own practice. And I look to educational bloggers for ideas. Doug Peterson has a curated list for Ontario bloggers, which is open and available to anyone in the world. So BC educators can take advantage of the fact that some of these Ontario educators have been blogging for a while. UBC Met program has a community blogs site, and it's part of the SCARF sandbox. EduBlogs is repository of educational blog sites, but it is a sign-up service, and it is warehoused and hosted in the United States. So you need to be aware of that when you use EduBlogs. But they have lots of different ways to access educational bloggers and educational blog sites. So this is the 2015 EduBloggers Award winners list. You can look to these for inspiration or ideas if you are just beginning to blog. And hopefully, with your help, we can start to build a curated list of BC bloggers for this website that other people can then come and learn from. So hopefully we'll create that as we go. Any questions as I've gone through the first part, the basics of blogging? Oh, okay, so let's take a look at the appearance of blogs. So when you begin your blog, you need to think critically about what it's going to look like. And the personal preferences and choices that you make usually are built on your own personal preferences and choices and what you like in blogs and what you don't like in blogs. And the more blogs you see, the more you see what you like or what you don't like, and things that you would like to bring into your own blogging experience. So here I've curated a set of 4 blogs. I'd like you to take a few minutes to look at each of these blogs. These are examples, and I want you to look carefully at the design considerations, what they did and how they did it, what you notice, what you see, or what you don't see. So the official blog for the Association of Teachers of English as an Additional Language, this one is a WordPress site. And I've jotted some observations that I've made, but I'd like to see what you see that I didn't see. Fun in Fourth, again, is a BC educator, and this site is powered by Blogger. It is not a WordPress site, so it'll look and feel different. Jennifer Gonzalez, Cult of Pedagogy, is a blogger out of the States, and here are some of the observations on her site. This is a rich repository of information here. And Chris Kennedy is I believe, West Vancouver superintendent who has blogged consistently for a number of years. So these are observations that I've made from his site. So I'm just going to stop sharing again, give you a chance to look at those 4 sites and see if you notice the things that I noticed or things that catch your attention that I may not have noticed. Any thoughts?
Yeah, Helen, if you don't mind me just speaking up.
Please do.
No, I thought these were really great examples because they did have all the different elements, like you pointed out. The one thing I have to admit that I noticed that kind of stood out for me, like all those elements of, back to the top, and those were all fantastic. But the one that really stood out for me was that this infinite scroll.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I like it. I feel like I got about 2 pages down and I'm like, oh, there can't be anything worthwhile down here, yet there probably is.
Yeah.
But the feeling, it's that 3rd page or 2nd page of Google feeling of, well, what good can there be down here at this point, right? When you're this far in. Right. I don't know if that's just me, but I found that a little disconcerting. I come across sites like that before, but here looking at it, I was like, oh man, I don't want this. Like because I was trying to get to the bottom to see something. I like to look at the footer, and you can't get to the footer.
Can't get to the footer. You have no idea Chris Kennedy's is an infinite scroll. And I realized that my own blog site, 5 Flames for Learning, also has an infinite scroll.
There you go.
And I realized I didn't like that either. Pavan, you went go.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say I agree with that. I find it really annoying when there's that infinite scroll, and sometimes like if I start to look and I scroll a little bit, I don't even read the stuff at the top because I'm like, ugh, this whole thing is so long, like I don't want to deal with it. I really like it broken down in chunks. So
we'll look at some of the options where you can do almost like a snippet, like a couple of lines, and then there's a button that you need to click to say open up to read it. So
yes,
your viewers have to engage with that button or that link to actually access the blog post. We'll look at that. Good.
Great. The other thing I noticed is I really like it when it's white and clean. I personally don't like too many colors or things coming at me. I feel like it detracts from me from the actual content. I like it white and very clean, and I like it when they use different font sizes and styles to like kind of differentiate as opposed to colors and different things coming at you.
Good. And we'll look at both of those options. May not get them to them today, but we'll definitely get to them on Thursday. But there are ways to change all of that to make it look the way you want it to. Okay, I'm going to start screen sharing again and just take us farther. So we're going to start by getting to know the dashboard. So the dashboard is the place where the blog starts and all the actions begin. So the dashboard is where you access the pages and posts. It all starts from the left top corner. Sometimes it's hidden by the WordPress logo in the top left corner, but it's always there and available. So in this case, my sites, you can see the number of sites I have here available, and right under the title of the blog site is where the dashboard would reside. On the next page, we're going to look at the option of the appearance, the basic appearance, and I will flip to the open editing version of the page. Let me just move that Etherpad out of the way. And you can see here are all of the pages for this blog site. And here's this is the dashboard. So I will limit the flipping back and forth between the view page and the edit page, but I tend to, when I'm writing in a blog, I keep both open so that I can see what the site will look like when I publish something. So I work with 2 windows. Usually one of them is the edit and one of them is the actual view, the edited public view. So the blog appearance starts with working from the appearances menu in that left-hand side navigation panel. And this is where you can access and work with things like themes, customization, widgets, selecting which widgets you want and which ones you want to have appear and where you want them to appear, menus, which impacts the navigation and visibility of the pages on your site, and also looking at options for headers and possible background options. You can see on this site, there is no header image. There is just the header and a tagline. And we'll look at how those are. The navigation, these are all set up within the appearance settings as well. And you'll notice workshop 2 pages are here as well. And this page here is the actual blog. All the rest of these are pages, and this will be the post. So to start with, themes. WordPress comes with a number of themes you can use, and really it is your personal choice. Usually takes quite some time to go through the themes, select a theme that looks and feels the way you want it to. Yes, you can change your theme at any time. You have to keep in mind that some themes come with different functionality than others. So you may not get everything you have, or you may get something that you didn't have. So themes come with different features. So consider a theme as a template. It provides that basic functionality for your blog site. This blog site uses the origami theme. And when you go to Appearance, Themes, and click on this, you can see all of the different themes. This one has 49 themes available. I selected one that I had some familiarity with, and I liked the look and feel of it. So you can go through at any point. If you see one that you think you might like, you can do a live preview to see what it looks like. And once you do that, once you activate it, you can see all of these elements that are found within that theme. So you can figure out where the widgets are, what widgets are available, how the menus work in this theme, the settings, the header, the background options. So you can work and play with the themes at will, and knowing that you're not stuck with a theme, you can change it if you want. You can also customize within a theme. Things that you can customize are the site identity. We'll take a look at that. The custom colors. So if you have a background color or a general link color, so when you have a URL on your site, the link will be a specific color, and you can dictate that color. You can change the theme design, the fonts, page container, menus, and footers. We'll take a look at menus a little bit later. Fonts, these are for the full site. So when you change the fonts in the appearance, it changes the font for every element of your blog site. There is a way to do it specifically on pages and posts as well. So if you just want to strategically use and shift some text based on trying to make it stand out in a particular area, you can do it separately. This dictates the font for the whole site, and customizing the header image. And all of that is done through the appearance menu, Customize. So if we click on that, this pop-up page comes up to get back to your actual blog site. You use the X to close this customization, but here's ultimately how I've customized this site. So I've changed the header and the tagline. I'll talk to you a little bit about menus in a bit. Site identity, if I click on that, you can choose a logo, you can change the site title, you can change the tagline. I have added this little icon to the corner. If you look here, the corner of the tab has that little icon on. So it's easy to see that this blog site is this blog site. It has its own little characteristic to it, and you can change that image. So that's the site identity. Colors, you can select different color for the link. We won't play with that just yet. Theme design. Fonts, this is where the fonts are dictated for titles, headings, and body, and you can change it to whatever font you want. I'll leave it where it is for now so that it's not going to mess up the whole site for now. And the header image, I have selected not to add a header image. I tried one and it's quite large on this theme, so I wanted to keep this very easy to access and look at what's on the page. So you'll notice that most of the pages don't have any images at the top, similar to this one. Okay. I rarely use a background image, but you can add a background image. Like I said, hey Van, I agree with you. I like the white look to it. Menus is the structure for all of these. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but each of these top level options, Workshop 1, Workshop 2, Blog, and Home, are parent pages, and all of the sub pages are dictated. The way they're set up is dictated under menus. And we'll come back to this. Home is my current menu. And widgets are bits. Let's go back to the site. Widgets are bits of they're blocks of content that add that functionality and options to your WordPress site. There are a number of different widgets. Common ones usually are categories, tag clouds, navigation menu, calendar, search bar, recent posts if you're blogging a lot, or an archive listing. And you can select where those widgets will reside on your blog site. For this blog site, have selected the footer. So if we look at the bottom of the page, these are this is a widget, the meta is a widget, and this piece of text is a widget. And if you look at the top of the site, this is a widget here, this is the search bar. So the search bar, you can search this website using the search bar. So each of those are added to the blog site and put where you'd like them. So let's take a look at how that happens. So right now in the footer, I have archives. If I click the drop-down menu, I can remove it, or I can add a different title to it. Under the meta is a series of menus. I can just change the title or remove it as a widget. And this text is just a container for the text that I want to include. And whether it has links, it's a basic text editor or an HTML text editor. And again, you can add a title, you can add some media to that text. If I wanted to add a widget, at this case, I'm going to add, and I could add an image, a navigation menu, a list of pages, recent posts, RSS feed, a tag cloud. You've probably seen those on some sites, or even a video. But we won't add any new widgets just tonight. Okay, so that's the basics of the appearances. Okay, and there are, on this site, I've added some supportive resources for you to make sure that if you start adding widgets, you can learn more about what these widgets will do and where you can add them and how you can add them or change them or delete them. Okay. The final piece is the menus. I've shown you a little bit, but again, I've added this video to support your work with menus. Menus I come back to frequently as I'm blogging. As I created this blog site, I revised and reviewed the menu frequently to make sure that these pages appeared in the order that I wanted them to. And there are two steps to making sure that they appear where you want them to. Okay. Any questions about the appearance of blog sites and what I've shared so far? A question in the chat? Okay, and someone had to leave early. And just being very cognizant of the time, I wanted to make sure that I talk a little bit, share the information here about blog designs for educators specifically who have very little experience with publishing to the web. And some educators are unfamiliar and haven't published to the web. I love this site that Dr. Tori Trust created at UMass Amherst with her Masters of Education class. And each of these elements is worth looking through. She has a whole site, an open access book that covers all of these elements. We'll just take a quick peek at this first one, Web Design Basics for Education, and all of the elements that they talk about here. There's a video to introduce it. It talks about purpose, talks about planning your website, how you can use analog elements within a website as well, which is really kind of nice. So there's one on considering font, word choice, spacing, and typography. There's one on selecting digital media for your blog site, and really looking at copyright, fair use, and Creative Commons. We'll look at those elements on Thursday in the Thursday workshop. Media elements for your website, looking at logos, banners, images, and infographics. So this is more about multimedia design for educators, and definite consideration in the current climate for digital accessibility and considering elements that can break down barriers and invite all viewers to be able to access the material on your website. And looking at the W3C accessibility guidelines, I've included, not on this page, but they are included in this site as well. But here I've also included a handy social media image sizes cheat sheet that I use within my own teaching classes, just so that people know how big an image to make for the header of Twitter, or how big does your Facebook post image, how big can it be? So this is a handy reference cheat sheet. So walking through pages and posts, privacy and permission, the 4 Ps. A page is static content. A post is like a journal entry, something that's fleeting, something you want to remember, something you want to write about, something that is time-bound, is contextual, is something that resolves your teaching dilemma, a teaching issue. It can help build your readership and make new connections. And we'll just bypass this. I would say if you're just writing for writing purposes to share information, go with a post. In this case, this site, I've used pages more than posts to share information that I want to be available in a static, consistent location for the viewers. there's a video that you can watch to talk about the differences. So as I said, the WordPress default is public. You can change the privacy and permissions features in WordPress quite easily. There are two ways to do it. You can do it for the whole site or specific pages and posts. I'm going to show you pages and posts first. So for each page or post, the permissions option is found in the right-hand side under the gearbox. And as soon as you go to the page option, this public comes up. If you click on it, you then have some options to do public. Private is visible only to yourself or any editors you might have added to your blog site, and password protected. And you do that before you publish. You can do it after you publish as well. It doesn't matter. You can change the access to any page or post. The privacy settings is done under the settings. So if we go to manage themes, and we go down to settings, we'll talk about these a little bit more on Thursday. And specifically, privacy will be set within the parameters under the settings. And we'll look at those on Thursday. Okay, and there is more on the UBC Wiki page that talks about, it's a wiki site about WordPress basics, and they talk about privacy. Any questions, concerns, issues? Don't want to go too fast, but I'm also very cognizant of the time that we've spent so far. Okay, not seeing anything yet. Pages and posts, what is the same between them? Same, and then we'll look at what the differences are. So these are the similar structures and features that are found both within pages and posts. So you access them from your dashboard the same way you do both of them, and you click Add New to create a page or post. Clicking here, go to Pages or Posts, and it's Add New. How do I get started? You don't have a paid WordPress account. I did mention the OpenETC, and I'll share it again in a few minutes when I wrap up, because we have an option for you to actually start a blog if you would like. So we can do that in a bit, okay? Just noticing the question in the chat. So page and post will open with a block editor, and it will be set to a block where you can add the title of the page or the post. And then once you've worked with it, you can save it either as a draft, a preview, or you can publish it. That's the same. Pages or posts have both of those options. And it will appear in this top directory. I'll show you that right here. So under pages, here's the directory of all the pages that I have in this site, and to the second page of pages. And you can see the structure of the pages is already set. Posts, if I look at this, here are the posts that I've created on this site. And this one is in draft. These ones are published. Okay. The nice thing about the WordPress is that you can preview your page or post as it would appear on mobile, tablet, or desktop computers. So you can make sure that the page will look the way you want on each of these types of devices. So under the preview option, and you can select which one you'd like to look at. I highly recommend you try all three anytime you have published a significant portion of your material, just to make sure that it's accessible. And you can revert to previously saved versions of your page or post by clicking to switch to draft. And that's just, again, in that top right-hand corner, where you can switch to a previous version. When you are ready to publish, and I tend to publish more often than not, I tend to publish as my saved option. But you can also schedule a page or post to be published at some other time in the future. You can backdate pages and posts. So to do that, under the gear icon in the right-hand corner, click on Page Visibility. Let's go to what is teaching practice, and the gear icon under Page, Publish, Visibility is public, publish immediately. If I click on that, a calendar pops up and I can say, oh, I want it published sometime in April. So it's now scheduled for April. The post style is standard, so there are options. You can change the permalink, the back end of the, as I call it, the URL slug. This is the slug of this page, and you can change that to shorten it or clean it up if you like. And there's another way to do that as well under quick edits. So edits and quick edits, there's a difference between an edit. An edit, you are editing the actual page or post. A quick edit, you are editing the location and the parameters. And we'll look at those when we go to the differences, because there are slight differences between pages and posts. But you can select quick edit to work on those contextual information for the pages or posts, like the date, the publication status, and the locations of where you find them. Fonts and text options are the same for pages and posts. Again, you can change for the overall appearance of your site through the appearance menu, or you can select typography from the right side menu under the gear icon and change from default. So here I have some text and I want to change under typography. I want to change the font from the default to something a little bit larger. I can customize it by changing that or reset it. I can also change the color of, unfortunately, the color of the text is for the whole block, not just, now that's the background color, and this is the text color. It is for the whole block, not just for the text that you've identified or highlighted. Okay. But keep in mind that when we do look at changes in colors and inserting images, you really need to be aware of web accessibility issues with color and text. And you use the color contrast validator tool that's linked in here to ensure that it has the right contrast ratio for visibility purposes. And learning a little bit of hex code doesn't hurt. I've just indicated here that I've selected this particular hex code. It's a variation of light green gray for these text boxes, just to have them pop a little bit off of the page. But again, you can select, and I just showed you how to do that from the color settings, the drop-down menu under the gears. I have added to the site here a couple of HTML and color hex websites where you can pick colors from palettes and learn how to use the code. If you customize the color, you click that custom color option. You can put the hex code in. You can click on the actual palette, or you can change the palette color by using the color bar as well. So there's lots of ways to select the color. But again, some additional resources for web accessibility. And this is not something I've done with this specific site yet, but it's worthy of doing once you've got a site that has substantial content, to make sure that your site meets the web accessibility requirements for education or for access. The differences between pages and posts, and then I think what I'll do is just save the block editor for the Thursday workshop, and we'll cover that. So I would like to give you a chance to do an activity between now and Thursday to get you blogging. The pages and posts are different, and you can convert a page to a post and vice versa. I've provided a link here. I'm not going to take time to show you, but if you do want to, there's a way to do that quite easily. So quick edit for pages. Under quick edit, I'll go to all my pages. I'm going to leave that site. All my pages, I go to quick edit here, and this starting block shows me the slug, the date, whether it's password protected or private. It is a main page. It's not in any particular order. It's a default template. There are no comments allowed because this isn't checked, and it is published. So it gives me those basic contextual pieces of information, and I can change them I can change any of these from this quick edit format. Quick edit on posts adds some additional information. If you do a post and I do a quick edit of this catalysts post, it shows the categories. And building a robust set of categories is helpful on a blog site. And you can see that blocks and blogging are parent categories, and these beginning beyond are child categories. So you can start nesting categories within categories. It offers you a place to put the tags. And again, tagging is, I think, an essential blogging skill, knowing that people can use these tags to help find content within your site. So if you have been blogging for a substantial number of years and people want to come back and find something that you might have blogged about, the tags will help them find that information. This indicates that this particular post allows comments, allows other sites to ping back to this site, and that it is published. Okay, pages, so parents, ordering, visibility, and menus. And we'll touch menus again, I think, on Thursday, just to make sure that that's understood. But there's several steps to organizing the pages into logical locations on a website. And really, it depends on your vision of your blog site. And it can emerge, it can change. As long as you know the difference between child and page, parent and child pages, you can provide the hierarchy to your site, and you can nest pages under or beside each other on a site. And page attributes can help determine the order of the pages under that quick edit. So here on this building blocks for blogging site, you can see the parent page is workshop 1, child pages, and then I've ordered and numbered these based on the sequence, the order that I want them to be in. And that is also, it's also done under the gear. You can see the parent page and the order that that page will be in. You can do the same types of things for tags and categories and titles. So the cult of pedagogy that we looked at earlier is a really great example of how tags and categories work when there's a substantial amount of content, and you can start structuring your website, your content based on those categories and tags. Okay, and that is it. Any questions? I've gone through quite a bit. Any questions, issues, concerns? If not, I'm going to bypass the building blocks for now. We'll come back to this on Thursday because there's more to blocks to be seen, but I would like to give you an opportunity to play with blogging before we leave today, or before you come back to Thursday's workshop. And as Winston Churchill said, there's a pessimists see difficulty in every opportunity, and optimists see the opportunity in every difficulty. So I'm hoping that you are optimists about blogging and that you see the opportunity in the difficulty in blogging. I'm providing you with 3 ways to engage with some blogs. The easy way, you want the starter blocks, you can just write a blog post. So you can go to this Splot Writer blog site. It's a specific, unique blog site that was structured by the incredible Alan Levine, aka Cogdog. It is one of the available blog sites that's offered in the OpenET site. Let me just domino to the OpenET site. It's free range ed tech, and you can get started with a blogging site here. But I have set one up for you if you want to blog. And it's just called Playing with Blogging Blocks. And you can click the button that says write, and you can write something. It will not appear immediately because this is moderated, and I will need to approve the writing. Here's the writing area. You can take this out and put in whatever you want. And when you're finished, you can save your draft. And once your draft is saved, then you can submit for publication. That's the easy one. And I've given you an example just so you can see how it is. And this type of blog site is called a Splot. And it is, I have added here under your turn to play more about Splots. So your turn to play Splot. You can learn more about Splots by accessing that page. Or if you're ready for medium blocks and you'd like to add to a shared blog site, you can add your email to the chat, or just let us know that we can use your email to access, and then you can add a blog. I'll invite you to this blog site and you can add a blog post. If you're ready, you can go to the harder blocks, and either, if you've already got a blog site, go back to it, reflect on your why, and think of what you can add to your blog site that will talk about the why of an educator, classroom, teacher, support staff, or write about any of the issues you consider when blogging. If you don't have a site and you'd like to get one, you are more than welcome. I've reached out to the OpenETC folks, and they are ready for anyone who wants to add to the opened.ca site. You can structure your own site. It's almost instantaneous to access and gain, and you can start looking at working on the appearance, just as we did today. And that is it for today. Any questions? Any concerns, worries, issues, wonderings? If not, take on the challenge.
Thank you so much, Helen. I know I learned a lot.
Wonderful.
It was really great. And I really look forward to Thursday.
There is so much more yet to go.